Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Next Deal podcast. This is Vince Hall. So today, Justin is not going to be here with us. We're going to miss him. He's got other responsibilities going on today that he had to attend to. But nonetheless, we got the podcast rolling, and we've got a great guest for you today. We've got Brandyn Schwalm with us. Before I introduce him, I want you to go ahead and subscribe, leave us a review. I cannot tell you enough how much that helps this podcast grow and get in front of more ears and more eyes. This podcast is not about Justin and I. This podcast is about our guests and the information and the stories and the experiences that they have to help you get your next deal. So when you like and subscribe, it gets more ears and eyes on them. So that being said, welcome, Brandyn, to the Next Deal podcast. It's good to have you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously we want to kind of get started. We always kind of hit the origin story, right? So you've been in real estate for 8+ years. You've done over 600 deals. So you're kind of a badass in this industry. 8 years ago, how'd you get into it, man? Like what flipped the script for you?
Well, I always had an entrepreneurial heart, and I knew that was always what I was going to do. I started doing entrepreneur stuff when I was 18, basically failed for 4 years. Then I started working for a buddy of mine. He was fixing and flipping auction properties.
Okay.
And so he needed someone to go to all of the properties. Basically I was like a runner. So I was going to like 50 houses a week and doing what I could to either like swindle deals at the door or, get inside to get an estimate for the rehab. So I did that for about a year. And eventually I decided to kind of just like go off on my own. And so I raised some money from a gentleman that I met at a networking event and just honestly started off like sending out direct mail. This is 2016. This was when you could, spend a couple grand and get a deal, back in the day. So I would send out a couple pieces of mail. I sent out, I remember this, like I'd spent like 12 grand on direct mail and we didn't get one deal. And I was freaking out. And, this is all on like credit cards and whatnot. And but I kept at it. And then I spent another the next drop was like another like 3 grand. And off that, we got 3 deals. And, that was kind of what...
So paid for the 12 initiative.
Yeah. So eventually I got those 3 deals. And I think between those 3 deals, I made like close to 100 grand. So that was kind of like
Fantastic.
What started, my journey, and that was what gave me the nest egg to really start ramping it up.
Yeah. How did that feel to see the 100 grand? Like, have you sniffed anything that close previous to that?
No, not at all. At this point I'm 23, you know, so I've told this story before on other podcasts, but for the first like 6 months of 2016, I had made like $12,000, and then the second 6 months I made 180.
There you go.
And so like it was like being 23, barely getting by, to then like all of a sudden making a lot more money.
Yeah.
It was, but like I was so scared that it was a fluke that like I never changed any of my like spending habits. Like my rent was $500 a month that I was renting from a friend in in his house, and I had a Nissan Versa that was paid off, so I was so scared that I just got like lucky that I didn't spend anything more.
That's funny. I want to go back to, you said, you sent these 12,000 mailers out, didn't get a deal. And then you said something, you said, but I stuck with it.
Yeah.
Right. Talk to people that are listening to this, because I can't tell you how many times that I've heard someone just change gears so quickly from a marketing avenue, whether it's direct mail or maybe they're doing PPC ads or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're texting, maybe they're just doing driving
Yeah.
for dollars and they quit because they're like,
Yeah.
this didn't work. Right. But
Yeah.
you kept going and put the consistency in. So speak into that. Like, how important was that for you?
Yeah. I just like, part of it was, for me, I knew eventually I was going to get a deal,
Hmm.
right? Because, like, unless I was the absolute worst salesperson in the room, like, there's no way you're going to spend that kind of money and not get a deal eventually. So, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, at least if I keep going and I can get at least one deal, it'll probably pay for
Yeah.
everything I just spent. And then, I can keep going. But I mean, it's just you got to give stuff like a long enough time frame and spend
Hmm.
enough money to really see if it works. And I mean, that's something that I stick to right now. Like, I don't stop anything unless I've spent at least $50,000 on that marketing channel in at least 6 months, because
Okay.
it's really like it's not enough data to know if it actually works or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
obviously it's easier for me to say that now in the position I'm in, and I can spend that kind of money and it doesn't change anything. But
Hmm.
if that's 50 grand for me, maybe it's 10 grand for someone
Yeah.
else, but spend it over 6 months, because the name of the game, a lot of it's follow-ups too,
Dude, like
you know?
most of it's follow-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the old saying, it's definitely cliche that, the fortune's in the follow-up, but it is 100% true. Like
Yeah.
that's where it's at. Um, so what got you over the fear? So, the last 6 months you made a ton of money, but you were still kind
Mhm.
of like, is this even real? Like, what was the
Mhm.
turning point to say, damn, like I'm doing this, and the fear kind of lifted a little bit.
um I think once I was like consistently making that income for like a year,
Hmm.
2 years, I think that was when I started kind of like loosening up a bit. I mean, I also moved from Orlando to Miami, and just doing that alone, you're going to triple your expenses
Yeah.
regardless, So that was, I just think as I started to realize that it wasn't a fluke and
Hmm.
that this is just like I've figured something out, that was when I was like, okay, like, you know, yeah, I may have some tough times. I may not pay myself for a couple months, 6 months, but I'll be fine in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have anybody like walking you through things on your first year? Did you have a team? Were you flying solo?
Mm-mm. It was all. Um, I didn't really like learn from anyone in particular. Like, I had some friends that were also kind of in like that same boat at the same time. Like Ryan Dossie, like him and I were basically starting around the same time,
Hmm.
and we're in like the same position of like we were just starting to make some good money,
Yeah.
So, having like friends like that to bounce ideas off of, that definitely helped. But no, for the first year, I mean, I kind of took it slow. I mean, the first year, I essentially was working like 70, 80 hours a week, doing it all myself, handling all
Hmm.
of the marketing, doing all the phone calls. And at this point, I was going out to, every single appointment, regardless of how they sounded when I spoke to them on the phone. I was just like trying to get the reps in,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was driving. I think my first year in real estate, I drove like 45,000 miles. Like, so I was just driving house to
In
house,
that Nissan Versa.
getting a lot of good gas mileage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you do any for driving for dollars? I know back 8 years ago that wasn't
hmm
nearly as popular as it is now. Was that part of your while you were out and about?
No, not really. The things that I was really only doing at that point was door knocking and direct mail.
Yeah.
And like I hired like some VAs to do some like cold calling as well, so I did some of that. But I mean, I didn't have a huge budget, so I
Hmm.
didn't, I was like, for me, I was just spending my time door knocking, the pre foreclosures, and direct mail, really.
Yeah. And what kind of response were you getting on the door knocking?
Oh, I mean, those are brutal.
Yeah.
Those
Let's
are.
give me a story, man. What kind
Uh,
of funny or horror
uh,
stories do you got?
I mean, the worst thing that I can think of, I mean, yeah, I mean, the first day I ever went door knocking for tax deed sales, which is like the tax
Yeah, yeah.
foreclosure essentially. My boss at the time, him and I drove out to Jacksonville for the weekend, and we went door knocking on the weekend for the tax deeds, and it was probably like uh, one of the last houses we knocked on the door, and I knocked on the door and started talking to the guy, and he just like flipped out, grabbed his gun, and chased
Oh,
us.
dang.
And I just remember going to my boss, being like, "If this is how it's gonna be every day, like I can't go. Like this is not for me." And it was the
Yeah.
first time he had a gun pulled on him too, so he's like, "No, this never happens."
Yeah.
And so like that was probably like the craziest that I've had like door knocking. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's you know,
I got started in real estate more on the retail side.
yeah,
Left that really quick,
yeah,
and I was door knocking a neighborhood really close to my house. I was kind of doing
hmm,
the I'm your neighborly agent kind of
yeah,
thing, and with like just about to put a door hanger on, and the person opened the door and grabbed my wrist, and I was like, oh my god, like it was freaked me out, and
yeah.
same thing, he was pissed. And he's like, "You wanted me to come knocking on my door and putting crap on my door. I was watching you through the window, and I saw you go to this house and this house, and I was ready for you." And I was like, "Damn!" And I just,
Wow.
put my tail between my legs, and I went home. I was like, "I'm not doing any more of this today."
It's so
Yeah,
ridiculous, like how people react to something so dumb. I mean, it's like the
so
same
dumb.
with like sending direct
Yeah,
mail.
just throw it away.
They're like, I'm like, I tell my guys sometimes, I'm like, well, ask them, do they call Walmart when Walmart sends them a postcard and yell at them?
They
Like,
might.
why are you
Who
yelling
knows?
at?
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
Yeah. Like what? Do
like,
you got going on in your day that you're so pissed off you got a piece of
yeah,
mail? Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
at Call Porter. So I know about Call Porter. We get those calls all the
yeah.
time. I mean, it's
Oh,
probably
I'm sure.
a third of the phone calls that come in, and I mean, some of them are crazy, man. We get cussed out, called the devil, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, door knocking is you've got to be you've got to have some
Yeah,
thick skin for it for
it's
sure.
not for the faint of heart, that's
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's
I
what I'm
mean,
looking
I
for,
didn't
man.
last super long. I probably did it for like 6 months. I think I got like two deals,
Hmm.
but like
Yeah,
not the best use of my time at that point. But
yeah,
it was a great learning experience, but
yeah.
it was
And
rough.
I know like when someone knocks on my door, I don't answer it. I got a Ring camera, and I'll just like,
Yeah,
I'm like, what do you want?
yeah,
I don't even answer it. And most of the time, these days, especially in my neighborhood, it's like landscapers and roofers and
yeah.
um,
Solar.
yeah, and stuff like that. But well, cool. So let's kind of shift gears
Sure.
a little bit. Like what has like brought you consistency these days? You're still making deals, you're still
Hmm.
marketing. Like, what's kind of
Hmm.
like your process in that right now?
Yeah, I mean, so we're kind of at a point where we're doing a ton of different marketing. We do TV ads, we do PPC, then we do the paper leads, we do direct mail, we do some cold calling and some text. But yeah, I mean, I would say top performers right now, probably direct mail, TV, and PPC.
Hmm.
I'd say
Yeah,
those are
I would
probably what
agree.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the most
So
expensive leads for sure, but you kind of get what you pay for.
yeah, and I mean, direct mail is the OG. I mean, it
Yeah,
is what it is. It's ethical. You can send it. You can pull your. I mean, it is what it is. TV. Are you in the ad, or is it more just like
yeah,
text? And yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Cause so I tried TV, let's say like 3 years ago, and
Hmm.
like for a while, I always was like I'd never wanted to be like the face of anything, and I didn't want to be in the commercials. I didn't want to be any marketing. Um, so like always had like actors or actresses, and then like our direct mail was like of other people, right?
Hmm.
And so I realized what like my response rates, my amount of money, like it just the multiples weren't working with
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's just not relatable.
Yeah.
So when I switched to like changing, putting me and my family on, direct mail, me and my family in the TV ads, and me and my family on, the Google ads and stuff like that, like it made a big difference in,
Yeah. It makes you relatable for sure.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's like you kind of like either have like in our business you have like basically two ways to go about it. You have like either like local,
Mm-hmm.
small company, or like big conglomerate, open door, offer pad. Like that's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of like your two options. And we're definitely more of like the small local than we are open door.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm I'm different in that regard. I like being on all the stuff. I'm like I'm like the diva, you know. I do all the commercials and stuff for Call Porter, some on Ballpoint, you know, webinars, podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I like being in front of people. I'm very extroverted in that way. And
Yeah.
then even my own personal, you know, investment business, I'm on all the postcards and things like that too. So with my partner, and he's kind of the same way. We're both very family oriented. You know, I got 5 kids, he's got 3 kids, and you know, we want people in the St. Louis area to kind of know like we live here, and you know,
Yeah.
this is our place, and
Mm-hmm.
you can work with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's the better route to go for sure. And it took, I remember I just had a buddy, and he was like, just throw a picture of you and because he was like, what made a difference for me is on my postcard was just a picture of me and my business partner with like my arm around him, and like, basically like a selfie in front of a house.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if that's doing really well, I can't imagine what like me putting a picture of me, my wife, my daughter, and my dog,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
that's even more relatable,
Yeah. Yeah. For
you
sure.
know?
For sure. So you've got all these marketing channels out.
Hmm.
You know, you kind of briefly touched on this just a little bit about follow up and how important
Yeah.
that is.
Hmm.
So, what's your process for follow up? And I really want the listeners to kind of hear this and understand this. Um, Everybody does their follow up a little bit differently, but like, what's kind of
Hmm.
your go to for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still using the dinosaur CRM Podio.
Hey man, there's nothing wrong with Podio. It works. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
got the 29.99 version?
Oh yeah. Well,
Oh
not
yeah.
anymore. They got rid of it. Now they charge you per user.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I started with $30 a month,
Yeah.
then make all the edits yourself.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, for us, the it's kind of my team's really like task oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So if they hit someone and they can definitely tell it's not the right time, they're really good at like, okay, this seller says, hey, call him back in a month, then they'll call him back in like 2 weeks. And, so it's kind of like whatever the sellers are telling you to call them back in, we always cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing you want to do is someone else get in front of them at the right
Right.
time,
Yeah.
because they told you a month, but really it was 2 weeks. So they're really task oriented. We recently started with like Omni Drip,
With
so
Paul
doing some of
DeCampo?
that stuff. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, Paul was
So,
a guest of ours like 3 guests ago. He's
oh,
awesome. I love
nice.
Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a good guy. So we have that, and then I mean, that's kind of really it's just like having them all handle their own follow-ups, and then we have two lead managers that their whole job is like going through our CRM and just like trying to revive old leads at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah. Tagging people appropriately,
Hmm.
keeping things organized. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
cool. So want to kind of touch base on like the tools and tech a little
Hmm.
bit too. So you mentioned Podio. Do you
Hmm.
got like CallRail or smartphone or something like that with them?
Yeah, so I use Podio and then CallRail.
Okay, gotcha.
Hmm.
Any other like tools that you're just love, you can't work without it kind of thing?
Man, I really like 80/20 REI.
Okay.
So I've been using them for, man, I don't know, 3 or 4 years at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Okay.
So I really like their data. I mean, they're definitely like a backbone of our business as well. Besides that, no, I mean, not really anything off the top of my head that I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you're telling me that you can do 600 deals and have very simple processes.
yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of what it takes. And I
Exactly.
mean, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's having those processes, but also having like a really good team.
Yeah.
And I would say that is like what my skill is getting talent and keeping talent.
Hmm.
Because like a lot of people's real estate business, it's a revolving door
Yeah.
where mine is not. I mean, I would say like we just recently hired two new acquisition managers, but besides that, I mean, I've had one acquisitions with me for 5 years,
Hmm.
another six, another three, another 1.5. So
Yeah.
I'm good at like getting people and keeping them.
Yeah. What are you doing to get them? Like, how are you finding them?
For a while, it was just like referrals.
Hmm.
Like whenever I needed someone, I'd like reach out to friends of friends and people in my network and, be like, hey, do you know anyone, that could be a good fit for our sales position? So that's
Yeah.
really what I did for a while. These last, well, I guess one of them was a referral as well. And then the other one is from Indeed.
Okay. Yeah. And
Hmm.
why do you think people stick around with you? Like, why are they,
I pay well.
yeah.
I treat people well. I kind of let them be their own boss within my organization. There's no like set, hey, you got to be in at this time, out at that time. Like
So
I
very
really,
performance based.
yeah. I mean, they're essentially like entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Like they're like they won't hear from me unless they're not performing really.
Yeah.
And if they need anything from me, like my line's always open. Like I'm always there for them. um we do kind of like, because we're all virtual, so a lot of us, we all live in different states, so
Hmm.
we essentially always do like a small thing in Texas in the summers where like the team will come out, we'll all hang out, work for like a couple days, and then like
Yeah.
go out in the boat, go do whatever. And then usually in December we do like our company trip, where essentially like I save like all of my points for that we spend on credit cards for the year, and then like
Hmm.
whatever I have at the end of the year we'll spend on a trip.
That's cool.
And so like we've gone to Aruba, Costa Rica, Mexico a couple times, Dominican Republic, Vegas. So we just, then we go for like five
Yeah.
days and just all hang out and relax and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, man. I love
Hmm.
hearing that. Um,
Yeah.
so, outside of real estate a little bit,
Hmm.
I saw, on your on your survey here, you
Hmm.
spent all of 2020 traveling
Yeah.
during COVID. Was that
Yeah.
intentional that way, or did you planned traveling and then all of a sudden COVID hit?
Well, so uh, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, we essentially in March of 2020, we like essentially we're going to be gone from March of 2020 to December,
Hmm.
where we were going to go to Central America, then South America, and then Europe for like 9 months. That was kind of
Hmm.
like our plan. We started like booking, um, like we had our first part of the trip booked, and then obviously the COVID stuff happening. I already had her quit her job because we're like, we're going to go do this for 9 months. Well,
Yeah.
then COVID happens. Obviously, you can't go anywhere. And I'm like, I still had this like itch to travel. And, it was definitely like scary because I remember, it's the end of March 2020.
Hmm.
We're getting on a plane. There's no one on the plane. And I'm like having like two masks on, goggles, gloves, because I'm like, I don't know what the hell this thing is. But,
Please tell me you got a
um,
selfie of that.
oh, I do.
Yeah.
And, my parents are yelling at me, like, what are you doing? Like, how can you do
Hmm.
that? But so, like, what I did is, I was like, well, I don't want to, and I was living on Miami Beach at this point, and I was like, well, I don't want to be stuck in a small apartment in Miami Beach. Like I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather be out in like the mountains or something. So I always loved Sedona. So I reached out to like a bunch of like just sick houses in
Yeah.
Sedona and asked them if they would, I was like, hey, I'll stay for the month, I'll give you $6,000 kind of thing. And so like me and a bunch of like my friends and their girlfriends, we all went out to Sedona and we stayed out there for like 6 weeks. Then we went to Colorado for 6 weeks. Then we went to Austin. Then I went to Hawaii for 2.5 months.
That's
So
cool, man.
we were just, yeah, then we were like California. We were just like reaching out to people, places that we wanted to go. Like I remember the Hawaii one, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks when you got
Mm-hmm.
there. So I was like, all right, well, we need to go at least 2 months for it to be worth it.
Yeah.
But this place on Airbnb, it was an insane house. It was like 60,000 a month
Jeez.
if you bought it, if you rented it on Airbnb. I
Yeah.
ended up getting direct with the seller or with the owner, and I was like, hey, like I'm down to come out, but I don't want to. I'm not paying anywhere near that. And he's like, listen,
Yeah.
just cover my mortgage for the month.
And you'll
And
be good.
for the 2 months, and we'll do it. And I was like, "What's your mortgage?" He's like, 12.5. I'm like, done.
Yeah.
And so we had this insane house
That's
in
super cool.
Hawaii for 25 grand for 2 months,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I was just at that point, I was like, you know what, I'll take advantage of the opportunities out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I had a totally different COVID experience in 2020. I was a teacher. So I was miserable doing online teaching to like 60
Yeah.
something students.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not fun. That was my last year of
Yeah.
teaching. And then I was like, all right, real estate's going to be my thing now.
I could see why.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
not man, that was not a fun time at all.
No.
And we were in Florida when for spring break. We had a
Yeah.
big house of like, I don't know, there's probably 20 of us in the house. Um and I remember having to like leave at like midnight with a friend during the whole toilet paper crisis.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We had a house of 20 people and literally no toilet paper. Like it was bad, dude. Like one of my friends like ripped up his shirt,
Oh my
you know,
God.
and so we went and like hunting for toilet paper in the middle of the night and like right around Pensacola and
Mm-hmm.
Bonita Beach, or what is it, Santa Rosa? I don't know, somewhere on the panhandle of Florida, and finally
Yeah.
found like wipes at a Walmart as the guy was like stocking them. It was like a freaking zombie movie,
Oh
dude. There
my
were people like,
God.
give me that, I was like, this is insane.
Crazy times.
Yeah, so crazy. Coming up on the end here, if someone's coming into the business, they're
Mm-hmm.
new, what kind of advice would you give them? Like what should they do?
Um, I think you should assess your situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're someone that has money but doesn't have time, then maybe you go the building a team route and do that faster. If you don't have money but you have a lot of time, and I still would probably do this in general, just because I think it's better for you to do everything yourself first before
Mm-hmm.
you start like having others do it, because like you need
Yeah.
to know how to do it yourself before you teach others. um but I would just figure out your situation and then start slow, like whatever amount of money you have to spend on marketing. Whether it's 20 grand, 10 grand, 5 grand, like I would split it up in like 3 or 4 months of
Mm-hmm.
runway,
Yeah.
and I would go, if you're marketing to your own local market, I would go on every single appointment in person, because that's what's
Mm-hmm.
going to give you the best odds of getting the deal and getting the bigger deals. Um, and just, get as much reps as you can in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then slowly start building to where you have like an organization. But just be patient.
Yeah.
Like I've been in
Yeah.
this for 8 years, and last year was our best year at like 3.5 million in assignments.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it took me
A long
four
time. Yeah.
years to make a million. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like just be patient and you know get those reps in.
Yeah, for sure. Are you on social media or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're,
I'm not really like, you know, marketing or doing any, I'm not like an influencer by any means,
no,
but,
no, yeah, but if someone
I dabble.
wanted to follow you, just
Yeah.
casually or anything like that,
Yeah.
we can always kind of put that stuff in the link of the description for the podcast and such.
Yeah.
Dude, any questions of me or Justin who's not here?
Yeah. I'd like to ask Justin why he's not here.
Oh yeah, so I mean, real simple. There's a couple people sick at Ballpoint, so he's just kind of
Uh,
helping some stuff there. So
gotcha.
yeah,
That makes
Ballpoint's
sense.
a machine, and it's got to keep running.
It's way bigger than I remember going to Ryan's like office in Indianapolis when he
Oh,
had like four machines in a house and it's just going back and forth
yeah,
and being like,
right.
wow, it really is handwritten.
Yeah, much
So
different scenario now. Now there's a big warehouse of lots of machines and lots of pins and mail and
yeah.
so
Yeah, it's crazy to see what it's grown into. I mean, I remember being like one of the first clients and seeing that, and it's super impressive. I mean,
yeah,
Ryan, Justin, and the team. I mean, they're killing it.
yeah, for sure. Well, dude, it was really cool meeting you. Love your
For sure.
story, and you're killing it. Keep on keeping on, and if I'm ever in Florida around you, or no, you're in Texas now, so
Yeah, just new to
I'm
Austin.
yeah, if I'm ever in your neck of woods, I'll hit you up and we can grab a beer or something like that.
For
Um,
sure.
but yeah, guys, there's Brandyn on the Next Deal podcast, just showing you that simple processes, having tools, tech in place, and what he said, patience and
Hmm.
consistency. That's going to help you to get your next deal. Go ahead and like and subscribe, give us a review, share this podcast with anyone and everyone who is in the real estate space that needs a little push. And we'll see you next week.